tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
And welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know who I am. You know what I'm here to do. I'm here to
rock.
There we go. Joining me as always, my partner, crime, the man, the myth, the legend. He asks all the important questions. Xavier Guerrero.
What's up?
Dude, they call Xavier Guerrero the Connie Chung of Mexicans. That's what they call him.
Hey, man, I don't have any problem with Connie Chung. Remember when she called Hillary Clinton a bitch that time?
Hey, dude, that was, dude, who took that as a disrespectful, bro? That was one of the highest forms of flattery I could give somebody, to call them a Connie Chung of their ethnic group, Johnny.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
You owe Xavier Guerrero an apology. And on the one to two, he's the instigator of this whole thing, my good friend and yours, Johnny Woodard. How are you, Johnny?
Good, man. Good. I think we got our last 90-degree day today in LA. I think it's going down.
I know, it's finally going down, right? Hey, Xavier, tell us about your podcast real quick.
It's George Press Stories. I produce it. We just had Renee Garcia on, so it was a little crazy, but it was fun. Check it out. Yeah. George Press Stories on YouTube. Any podcast app, check it out.
Word is it's felonies on audiobook. Okay, that's how that goes. Johnny, Broken Sim, when will that drop?
End of this week again.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, almost certainly, I hope.
All right, man, that's great.
I lost a little data, so I had to kind
of. Dude, isn't that all of us in 2020? We've all lost a little data.
I lost about 2 hours of work, which was.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
Didn't make me happy, but
I'm sorry. Maybe it's because you mocked me when you use my house as your backdrop.
Boy, that's mocking. I'm celebrating
You're celebrating the bad paint job going on my wall.
You're the one that brings it. I never said a word about that. You say it every time.
Oh, you make it the focal point of the background.
It's literally your background, and
I know, but that's not the point. It's the point is that you're making it the focal point.
If you cared that much about it, you'd.
Johnny, if you cared that much about it, Johnny, thank you so much, guys. You can see me live. You guys want to see me live? I'm going to be live at the you did Good Nights Charlie's live at the. Hold on one second.
It's Good Nights now. It used to be called Charlie Good Nights. Then they changed the name.
Oh, really? Oh, really? They got Kate.
They got rid of Charlie.
Yeah, what happened to Charlie, dude?
They just simplified the name.
They said, fuck Charlie. All right, so I'm going to be at Raleigh, in North Carolina, at Good Nights Comedy Club, September 24th through the 26th. And then following that week, I'll be at the St. Louis Helium Comedy Club, October 1st through the 3rd, okay? Grab your tickets at the goodnightcomedyclub.com, goodnightcomedy.com, and the St. Louis heliumscomedy.com. And that's that. And then what else is going on? Guys, I have some Patreons. I have some of that, some of this, but I've kind of been pounding on those. I just want to say, check out the t-shirts. Go to tinfoilhattshirts.com. We are putting up new t-shirts every day. And then if you want coffee mugs, go to tinfoilhatswag.com and you can grab those there as well. Anything else, guys?
You can. We talk about a shirt later in this episode. bsmerch.com if you want to.
A lot of merch. So I'll put all the links into the thing. Just go look at that, dude. Are those the socks?
Yeah, I'm walking around with fucking tinfoil socks.
Dude, I am on your feet, man, and I love that shit.
No.
Xavier Guerrero working his ass off on those things. So, guys, I appreciate you very much. This is a great show. It's with CRROW777. Enjoy the show. All right, let's get into it. Joining us, he's a wonderful researcher, and he's been highly recommended by multiple people. Please welcome to the show, CRROW777. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. You come, some of the people who've done the show in the past have all said very nice things about you. For our listeners who might not be familiar about who you are, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your research?
I think most people originally came to know me around 2012, 2013 with the telescope work I was doing, filming the day and nighttime sky almost around the clock as much as I could. And then later the podcast, CRROW777 Radio.
Nice, nice. And so so when you started filming, what did you discover?
I initially set out to film what would be probably called UFOs, and it was a very short period of time before I accidentally called what's come to be called the lunar wave. Although, to be honest, if that was to be renamed now, I think it might be a better descriptive term to call it maybe a firmament wave. It's been shot numerous times in front of the moon, a number of times in front of Jupiter, and once or twice in front of Saturn. So anywhere the ecliptic is, I'm guessing you can see a wave, and in my mind, that probably relates to what we call the firmament.
Oh, snaps. We're
There we
into
go.
it. We're into it. Johnny is already uncomfortable.
Not true at all.
We're into it, dude.
I can see him. He looks fine.
Well, he's fine. This is a joke. It's a running joke. Everybody loves it. But I'm excited to do this. So what instrument did you use to get this started?
So originally in the 90s, I went into probably the most dead I ever did, not buying a car, to get a Meade 8-inch Schmidt cast grain fully robotic scope. At that time, the Meades were made in the United States, tough as nails, good stuff, not so much anymore. Made in Tijuana, owned by China, I think. So don't buy Meade is what I always say. The old Meade, my old original Meade that was made in the US with US steel, is a tank. It's still going. But then later I got a Celestron. So that 8-inch scope is what started all the work. And I later upgraded to an 11.25-inch scope.
And what did that scope cost you?
At the time in the mid 90s, I had gotten out of the Marine Corps. I think it was like $2,300, something like that.
And what would you think that would cost today?
Oh, I think that they've maintained within a range. So you could probably get used ones for cheaper than that have been certified and are quality scopes. But between $3,000 and $4,000 maybe for a good 8 to 10-inch scope, I'm guessing, because I haven't looked in a long time.
So you're in the Marines. What'd you do in the Marines?
I was a radio operator and a cryptographer.
Well, what's a cryptographer do?
Encrypts the signals so that nobody can read it. You got those little punch papers they issue all over the world each day, so that it'll decrypt, that kind of thing. It's the form of encryption when I was still used by the Marine Corps. It's kind of old school encryption. Okay,
so you were encryption and that stuff. What made you want to start just seeing UFOs? And because I find this interesting because, it's like there's so many people with telescopes, and I don't know how many people are flat earthers or believe in UFOs, but I just find it so interesting how there's so many people have so many different views of everything. And why, it's like I was on Alex Jones with Eddie Bravo, and he's talking about when I was a kid, I would look at the telescope and I would see the moon around Vegas. I'm like, I don't think you did, dude. I don't think you saw that at all. But
wait, what was he saying, Tim? You kind of cut it off.
He saw the moon around, I think, Venus. He was talking about that, and I forget which planet it was.
You mean he saw a moon orbiting Venus, or he saw our moon near? Okay, I got you. Okay,
a moon orbiting Venus. And
I never heard him say that. That's interesting.
Did you? He's either Venus or Mars. It was one of those planets.
But more likely Jupiter. You can see 4 moons pretty readily around
Maybe
Jupiter.
it's Jupiter. Maybe it's Jupiter. Now, so when you get into the filament, right? We're entering a flat Earth territory, correct?
Well, not necessarily. Our world is misdescribed. We're stationary, and that is, you can demonstrate it. Beyond that, you can't demonstrate a lot. You got a lot of people claiming they know things that they can't prove, and until somebody gets a private airplane that'll go up 70,000 feet and look back down and take a nice crisp shot on a perfect day, we're all just guessing.
I love that, dude.
Oh, so that's interesting. I've never. That's what it will take then. I mean, if to give you a sort of an idea of what the nature of the planet is like.
Well, a lot of the things they pass off as ISS footage, which is not in space, which there are no astronauts. What I call the firmament, I originally called the hard fast barrier.
Okay.
I proved to myself there's a barrier there and we ain't going through it. I use the word firmament because a lot of people are familiar with it, but the problem with that is it's got biblical connotations.
Yeah.
So then half the audience gets, no matter what word you use, you're
I
always
couldn't
trying to
agree more.
thread the needle. It's why I came up with the idea of the sky clock, because if I say astrology, astronomers are pissed off. If I say the opposite, then, you know, you see. So I invented the word sky clock to try to middle of the road, get us calibrated so we can intelligently talk about a thing. But here's the thing, when you see all those high altitude images that are claimed from the ISS, you're looking at planes that are at 70, you know, super, super high altitude. That's where those images are coming from, and they're in our atmosphere. And by the way, I'm known for shooting UFOs, and I'm good with the description of that, but I don't accept for a second that anything's coming into this place or going out of it. And I sure as hell don't accept gray aliens giving us rectal probing. It's all nonsense. So everything I filmed, I can pretty much demonstrate is in our atmosphere. And I did that with an optics expert where we literally calculated out for my systems the value of a pixel, because Huffington Post wanted to print an article saying I didn't know what I was doing. And clearly I had shot a supposed satellite in half geosynchronous orbit at 11,000 miles. And I said, okay, let's do this. And I did do this. And I showed them if what they said was true, it would be 4 or 5 times the size of the supposed ISS. Ridiculous. What it actually is in our atmosphere. And all these things, you know, here's the thing for you. When they were going out to Pluto and I started saying, this is fake, this is all fake, everything they have shown you is provably fake. And I used the example of what my little 8-inch telescope in the backyard shooting Jupiter, which they're telling me is 400 to 500 million miles away. I'm shooting all this detail at 400 to 500 million miles, and they're 7 miles or million miles, they're claiming, from Pluto, and it's all pixels. And the camera's the same size as my scope, by the way. I said, you're looking at fraud. This is all fraud. And so then I went to town on the moon, and I said, you know, it's something 340,000 miles away. You think you can see detail on that with your naked eye? I got news for you. You can't see things with your naked eye from 340,000 miles away.
So interesting, dude. I think about that all the time, man.
Of course.
You know, you got these people talking about, oh my God, we found this planet that's, you know, 100 million light years away. I go, how
no, they didn't.
can you find that? It is so far away that you won't even be able to, dude. How can your equipment travel faster than light?
So we all use a telescope, right? What you're telling me is the telescope they sell at Big Five is good enough?
So run that by me one more time. I kind of missed the thread.
Hold that question. I'm asking a question real quick, and then we'll get to that real quick. Just hold on one sec. We'll totally get to that because that's a great question. So when they go, hey, this thing is 400 million light years away, and they show a picture of it. How do people accept that answer, CRROW? What, like, do you go, oh, you got to be lying?
This is the whole experience of our times. There is a mega battle going on for the minds of human beings. This whole pandemic thing is a battle for the human mind. What can we get them to accept? What can we get them to believe in? And until you grow up and you're not afraid to stand up in a busy room with 100 other adults and say, no, man, this is all ridiculous, then you're kind of under the thumb of believing in things you shouldn't believe in. And here's another thing. I filmed for pretty much 5 years nonstop, day and night. And that was first when the planes started to spray really heavy. And I was trying to tell people, look, these planes are spraying, it's not normal. And no one would listen. No one. And now it's admitted. They've admitted flat out that they're doing all this weather modification and everything else. Point is I set out to film all these eclipses. And so for 5 years, I filmed every solar, every lunar eclipse, every transit of Venus across the sun. And I finally realized this explanation of the sun and the moon from our apparent position, they're identical. How can that be? So I looked up a statistician who said it's statistically impossible for the explanation we're given to be true, which is the sun's 400 times bigger and 400 times more distance. Therefore, they're the exact same size. So I set out to do a single thing. with very good equipment. I had an 8-inch scope, I had an 11-inch scope, I had a full spectrum camera, I had a 36 megapixel Nikon with a honkin' long throw telephoto with a doubler on it. I had filters, I had a solar telescope and hydrogen alpha. So I set out to do one thing, to film the moon before it got to the eclipse, because they're telling me that the moon is about to block the sunlight. And so I reasoned, if you're going to tell me the sun's at 93 million miles and the moon's at roughly a little more than 250,000 miles, that means the moon is backlit by the brightest damn thing we know in existence called the sun. I should be able to film it. It can't be done. And by the time we got to the full solar eclipse in August of 2017, I proved it outright that the moon plays no role in a solar eclipse, that it is the nodes. Going back to the old Indian Vedics, we're telling you the truth. They called it Ketu and Rahu. The nodes are what's causing the solar eclipse. The moon plays no role.
Hold on. I don't want to jump it because it seems like, so ask your question again.
I just want to know if, well, we've all used the telescope, right? But the most thing I've used is like the big 5 ones, like the $80 ones. Are those any good?
No, this is the rule of thumb. So many people send me an email saying, I want to get into this. What should I do? First of all, my choice for scopes is the Schmidt cast grain style. It's that short, fat tube. And they're great because you can just remove the rear cell, take the lens off the camera, make the telescope the lens of the camera. That's the way I shot almost everything. But if you're going to be serious about it, you want to get as close to 8 inches as you can. If you do 3 or 4 inches, you can do the moon and get beautiful shots, but you'll outgrow it super quick. If you get up around 8 inches, then for years to come, you can be doing your Jupiter thing or your nebula thing or whatever you want to get into. When you get up around 8 inches, you have a wide range of things that are possible.
And let's take a quick moment to tell you about our good friends at Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Dude, it's 2020 has been pretty crazy. Finally, there is some light, and that's right. It is peanut butter whiskey. Like, it couldn't get any better than that. That's how you know God cares right there, okay? It is the perfect drink for your virtual happy hour. Drinking with your friends in public or drinking over a Zoom meeting. I don't know what it is, but bam. Peanut butter whiskey, okay? You consider yourself a black sheep, a misfit, or a screwball, then guess what? Screwball peanut butter whiskey is perfect for you. It's got a warm aroma and a delicious mood palate for those who love whiskey. Why not crank it up a little bit and go with peanut butter whiskey, okay? Screwball whiskey is amazing by itself. It's a shot. It's neat. It's on the rocks. Boom. But you can take any drink you have to the next level or whatever your favorite cocktail is. Add Screwball peanut butter whiskey to it, and it makes it even better, okay? It's just next level stuff like that. It's made by a husband and wife duo, American whiskey with peanut butter flavor. The end result is a savory, creamy touch of sweetness without lingering heavy finish. That's why I love Screwball whiskey. Whiskey is my choice. You know, when I was running and gunning, I loved whiskey. Screwball appeals to everyone, old and young. So this is what we're doing right here because I love Screwball whiskey, and I know you will too. Screwball, the original and most awarded peanut butter whiskey, is now available near you at 70 proof. Enjoy it neat or on the rocks or in your favorite cocktail. Pick up Screwball at your local store or get it delivered today. Ready to get screwed? Okay, go to screwballwhiskey.com for more information. Click and buy now. Please drink responsible. Advertisement by Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, CA. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% volume by alcohol. Please enjoy Screwball whiskey. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. Let's get back to the show.
To make it topical, I know I'm sure you may have seen the report recently about signs of life on Venus. What do you think they're actually, like the scientists who are engaged in that science, what do you think they're doing at those research institutions?
I think they're studying flowers and roosters, poppycock. That's what they're doing. They've misdescribed everything, and anyone who wants to get in their adult mind and go out with their own 2 eyes and look what Sam just said. He's sitting there questioning, wait a minute, man, this thing's over 250,000 miles. I'm looking at it with my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
How come everybody isn't asking that question? And then the people who go further and get optical devices and cameras and start spending time, because time equates to knowing. You put in 5 years like I did day and night, you start to know some things. And you're not getting it out of a book or secondhand, you're doing it firsthand. This idea that you can, as a matter of fact, the so-called planets, I refer to all of it as luminaries. And by the way, you couldn't put a boot on the moon if you wanted to, from my perspective. It is a light in the sky, period.
Okay. What?
Oh.
So, and just to be clear, you think that the scientists who claim to be observing the planets, do you think they're all deliberately deceiving us, or some of them are seeing things that they think are something else?
Right. It's, you know, it's a legit question. Everyone always asks it. Think of the Apollo missions where everyone says, well, we had to have done this. All those people were not lying.
They're misled.
These engineers went to work and they were told they were building this thing, and they did the best work they could, thinking I'm building this thing that's going to the stars. The only problem is that thing never went to the stars. It never left our atmosphere, and it's all compartmentalized. You want to talk to me about administration of NASA? Yeah, those guys are lying.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that, because so many people say, well, how could this many people keep a secret? But it's really not as many people as
no, I'm telling you, it's really not. And on top of that, it is not like this is my argument I have with Brian Callen all the time. It's just like, this is not a 2-week mission. This is like a long con game, and they move at a very snail's pace purposefully to position each person is like bought and sold at that era. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at this, the coronavirus, right? So I know some people who've taken their 90-year-old mother to the doctor, and the doctor was telling the 90-year-old mother that this one hospital in Orange County has been overrun with COVID deaths and sickness and all this stuff. And none of that is true.
Nope.
Why is he doing that? Because it's just
because he doesn't know any better.
And he's just following the lead.
You know what we find? Here's what I have found. The most educated people among us, as a matter of fact, I have a heart surgeon lives down the road from me. The most educated people among us have put the most effort in to learning a system, and they're in whole hog. You don't spend 8 years in medical school, then another 4 in you know, you're not buying into what you're doing. But the problem with that is you're learning how you and I, how all three of us, I'm guessing, learned. We went to school, we opened a book, we memorized it, then we regurgitated it, then we got our A. At no time was it our ownness to say, wait a minute, teacher, I'm not buying this Apollo launch thing. That was not part of our curriculum. What is what year did it happen? What was the first man's name who put his boot on the moon? This is not learning. This is memorization and regurgitation. Now, we've done a lot of shows to show outright, provably, that the Rockefellers took over medicine in this country, outlawed anything holistic, and replaced it with allopathy. And when you go down this road, you could ask a simple question. How is it that all the way up in the 21st century, when my foot hurts, I don't go see the doctor for the body. I go see the podiatrist, the doctor for the foot. Everything's been fractioned down. I can still go to China to this day, never see a chemical drug, which, by the way, doesn't cure anything ever. And he's in charge of the whole body. Oh, your foot's injured. Well, let me look in your nose, and let me look at your tongue. I'll get to your foot in a minute. Let me take your pulse. I'll get to your foot in a minute, doing the whole deal. And he also has these ancient sayings that were handed him from thousands of years of Chinese medicine. Things like, if your doctor does not prescribe diet, you have not seen a doctor. Now come back to the West, where allopathy rules. You still want to call this medicine? Because I don't. I'm not interested in calling that medicine.
I couldn't agree more, dude. And it's just like, you know, take a look at our legal institutions, right? Lawyers. It's like, you know, when the TV show LA Law came on, there was a boom of lawyers, a boom. Everyone wanted to be a lawyer because they thought they were going to hang out with good-looking people and bang tens and just save lives and all this stuff. And what happened was there became too many lawyers. So now they started just like, now you started seeing all these crazy lawsuits and all this shit. Everyone gets invested into this system because they're so in debt. And that's the same thing with doctors. We've seen with holistic doctors where if they play outside of what is acceptable, they can lose their medical license.
Smackdown, yep. Smackdown. They're risking it.
So I want to ask something. What is the lunar wave?
So back in 2012 at the supermoon, I don't remember, I think it might have been May, I have my young nephew over and we busted out my scope for the first time in years. And we're looking at the supermoon and his father's coming over, my wife's sister's coming over, and all of a sudden I hear my nephew young, uncle, there's a black triangle going in front of the moon. And I'm, oh my God, that lucky little devil, I'll never see that again in my life. But I get up to the scope. Everyone gets up to the scope for 2 or 3 hours. We're watching these black triangles clear, because you cannot get the same view with video that you do with an eyepiece. An eyepiece is a much sharper, kind of better view than you can ever translate to video. So we're looking through an eyepiece, all of us, for 2 to 3 hours as the moon apparently moves through the sky. We're watching these things. So the next day I go out, get everything I need to hook my camera up, thinking I'll film a million years. I'll never film another thing like this. Within a week, I'd already filmed something. And by September of that year, I had filmed, by chance, on accident, the so-called lunar wave, which basically looks like, for people who haven't seen it, which it's hard to imagine, no one's seen it. It looks like if you took an old VHS video camera and pointed it at a tube TV, that rolling wave line you get.
Yeah.
But with the original 2012 footage, it displaces the entire image of the moon twice.
Okay, so hold on. So what does that mean?
To me, knowing now what I didn't know then, it was right at the equinox, and I always had felt for a long time that it had to do with the equinoxes. It was on the highest Jewish holiday, by the way, and I thought it might be connected in some way with those old traditions. And what I come to find out after all this time is, first of all, it shouldn't be called lunar. It will always probably be called that, but it shouldn't be called lunar wave because it's been shot in front of Jupiter a number of times and Saturn a couple times. So that tells us that the wave is at least visible in the ecliptic, or the path of the sun, moon, and so-called planets. So that wave to me is, and that's, you know, let me back up a minute. When Mr. Werner von Braun, supposedly the man who built the best rockets of all time, we still can. We've got computers now. We still can't build what he built. We can't go back to the moon. Werner's gone. But you see, Werner lied to us his whole life. But on his tombstone, he told the truth. He left us a little psalm from the Bible, 191. That's 9/11 encoded, of course, because Werner was no idiot. But what 191 psalm tells us is, the firmament showeth the handiwork of God. So make up your mind, Mr. von Braun. Did your rockets go to the moon, or is there a firmament? Which one of those two things is true, buddy? I think I'll take your deathbed, you know, your deathbed statement.
Unbelievable.
That's what I'll go with. So what I suspect is going on is that there is a wave in that thing I called the hard fast boundary. In the Bible and other ancient religions, it describes the firmament as separating the waters from the waters. And it does look very liquid when you see it, but I suspect.
Hold on. So are you saying that space is liquid?
I said about 4 years ago that I suspected space would be better described as a liquid. Yes.
I've heard Greg Carwood mention that before, that space might be liquid, and that's
He had to have got that from me. He had to.
Well, no, I don't think he was claiming that his research. I think he was talking about how there was discussions, and I'm not trying to say he jacked anything. I don't think that's.
No, I don't mean, he's the first guy who interviewed me, by the way. He didn't jack anything from me. Matter of fact, I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast. If he never interviewed me, I'd be doing something different.
Yeah. So I don't want to make it seem like he was just mentioning that this picture was put out that made it, that kind of backs up the theory that space is liquid.
Regarding the nature of space, if it is a liquid, do you have an intuition that maybe it's some kind of display technology or possibly, like, I mean, I know that some displays are actually made of liquid. There's this theory among
there's a lot of people that want to claim a synthetic sun. There's a lot of, I'm not going there. See, to me, nature is perfect. In this world full of lies, there's one place I can go any day and I know I won't be lied to. It's called nature. If I go out to a field and I learn something, I have been told the truth, and whatever it was that I learned. If I learned it from a bird, a tree, a bush, a field, whatever, there is no lie in nature. What I suspect is probably true, or has been reflected in many religious traditions, not just our Western one that we call the Bible, but the idea of waters being separated from waters. And the idea there is that we're down here in a 3D material realm, and the water that's being separated from us is a bit more etheric. So there's like this heavy material, and that's why it's separated too. It's like a gravity thing. By the way, I don't buy gravity, but just to use a word everyone understands.
There we go. There we go. There we go. You don't believe in gravity.
No, it's a theory based on a theory, and anything that's a theory for very long is a bad theory. When it becomes a law, let's talk about it all day long. This is a theory based on a theory, and it was given to us by Einstein, and Einstein lied about other things. Einstein dictated that there was no ether. Sorry, buddy. That's been proven since time immemorial, so your fancy equation ain't ditching ether overnight for people who can still think.
That's so interesting, dude. It's like, you hear about the like Van Allen belt. I wonder if that is the firmament, right? Like I've always thought like that is what they're talking about.
Well, think about the nature of what you just said. So this thing that's been around a few gazillion years is now named Van Allen. There's no problem with it.
That's hilarious.
It's a bit like going into Africa and naming the Lake Victoria, right?
No. Yeah, good point.
That's so funny.
That's very interesting.
Are there recordings of the lunar wave that you've shared?
Tons. So you guys should know that my partner on CRROW777 Radio, the podcast, Jason Lindgren, took all my 5 years of telescope footage, and he made a feature-length film that was 2 hours long, which is on Vimeo on demand, called Shoot the Moon. So anyone who wants to see it all in one shot with me explaining to the best of my ability what I suspect is correct, or telling you flat out I don't have a clue. There's weird things in there. Like I filmed an orb coming out of a chemtrail shooting plasma beams. I have no idea what that is, but it's tech. It's human tech, yeah.
Okay, let's go through some of the things you saw. The boomerang?
The boomerang was an object transiting the moon. It looks like a boomerang. It spins one way, then the other, noses down, levels off, and flies out of frame. That's in Shoot the Moon, the movie. Oh, by the way, when we first did this, Jason submitted to 30 film festivals. No one would touch it. So I said, the world's not ready. Guess what? It's played all over the world now, and Jason just received his 8th laurel from Jaipur, India. So that film is not the laughing stock anymore. People have used it, watched it, appreciated it, and it's a one-stop shop.
What's it called, the movie?
Shoot the Moon.
It's not this romantic comedy they've
yeah, I was just Googling too, and it's
slightly more interesting. If you put CRROW777 with Shoot the Moon, it should show you.
Okay.
Are there examples on YouTube of the lunar wave that you've shared?
Yes, go to I can do the search right. Hold on.
Well, if you could just tell me the search terms, I'll pull it up and share the screen even so the listeners can, or the viewers can
Do you got
see.
any questions, XG?
Yeah, I actually do have a good question. So you've seen everything, right? Like up in space. What's up with the black cube of Saturn? What do you think about that?
All right, I'm going to take an assumption, which might make an ass of you and me, but I'll do it for the sake of the conversation. I assume you're talking about pictures that show the pole of Saturn. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the hexagon.
That's bogus nonsense, computer-generated poppycock.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. So, but these people who worship that stuff, do you still think that is?
Well, you see, the idea that they're trying to encode in the images is real. Saturn is represented by the color black. It is binding. It is cold. The metal lead, which blocks all light, is Saturn's metal. These go all the way back to the natural sciences and alchemy. So the influence of the idea of the luminary we call Saturn has always been a known quantity. What they're claiming is they got a spaceship near it. And what I'm claiming is poppycock. You guys are making up images in a computer. You can't get out of this atmosphere. I proved it to my satisfaction in more ways than one. And by the way, your body is tuned to hear. You call it a prison if you want, but the truth is you're tuned to hear, and you ain't leaving here with your body. Maybe if you're a master yogi meditator, you can go with your mind a little further, but you ain't leaving here with physical material.
Man, it just got claustrophobic.
I found one of his videos here. This is really something.
2012 lunar wave.
Lunar wave 9th March 2020 is what I'm looking at. Or no, I'm sorry. No, that's the wrong thing. Shit, I just closed it.
Here,
Okay,
let me. I'll do a quick search and I'll try to.
Wait, no, I just had it.
So you're saying that space
2017. It was 2017. Is that winter 2017 is what I have here.
That's way down the road, but probably.
It's a good one. I mean, I'm gonna share that. If that's okay.
Yeah, let's look at
Go
it.
ahead.
Come on.
Here,
Give
I'll
me the
look.
good stuff.
I'll tell you. Put it up, and I'll tell you if it's the 2012. No, that's not the 2012, but it's an interesting one. That's not the good stuff. The best stuff.
What's
Okay,
the
I'll
best
find
one?
that. But
The
you see
2012.
this
My
thing?
first capture, the 2012, is by far the best.
You can see it tracking across the screen. That's fascinating. Wow.
So if space is supposed to be liquid and we got out of an atmosphere, could you technically put it like in a jar?
Well, you see, now you're
Did
starting.
you just ask
Yeah.
if you could put space in a jar?
He wants
I'm
some
just-
space water, man. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, dude. I'll give you
No,
that.
what
Space.
I'm saying is if any of that's correct, the water up there is lighter and more etheric and doesn't mix with matter.
It's almost this is almost like the refresh of an
Right.
asset or something on by a computer. You know what I mean? Like a re-rendering.
Oh, you mean that thing going around it?
Yeah. Do you see that tracking?
Yeah.
You can see it. If you look along the edge, it's a lot easier to see the start of it.
Yeah. And
You
what do you think that represents?
It's a wave. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
does that make you think that means it's not solid?
I think it's okay. Can I send you a link?
Yeah,
through?
if you send it to me in the message.
This is
yeah,
so
absolutely.
interesting. Dude, the world
Okay,
is
here
so
we-
much more interesting than anybody wants
There
to
it
know.
is. Okay,
And I
here's
don't
the
know
chat.
why.
Run that one. There's the
I
2012.
love
There's
that
the
XG wants to put space in a jar, like your mom's fucking honey or something like that. That might be the funniest thing I've ever heard.
That'd
in
be
my
a
life.
hell of a gift.
Hey man, can you
Right.
take it and put it in a jar? And like,
I'm with you.
send it
I'd
to
go
my
for that.
aunt and
I just don't think you can put etheric water in a material jar. Matter of fact, I don't think you can get close enough to do it.
That's so awesome. What are we looking at here?
This is the creme de la creme. The first capture, the 2012 lunar wave. It'll come from the bottom. There
Oh,
it
wow.
goes.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
Catches up to the camera, which proves it was never anything
Oh,
to do with
wow.
the camera. But look at it displace. Every crater is displaced like you're looking through water. Here comes another one.
That's
Pick a
so
crater.
damn interesting. Wow.
Pick a crater and watch it displace.
You're right. You're right.
It's amazing. Every time I see it, I'm still amazed after all this time.
What?
So do you think it might lend to this as a hologram?
I started there and I regretted having said it because I was trying to describe a thing. I didn't have language. This is the moon, man. We've seen it written about for as long as we've seen it written about, and it's a luminary. It's not a ball
When
of
you
dirt.
say luminary, what does that mean? Because I flunked
it's a
first
light.
grade.
It's a light.
Whoa.
And it's probably creating its own light. This is it with
What-
filters.
Okay.
But you see how it catches up to the camera after the pan?
Yeah, that would prove one of the biggest, I think,
Right.
one of the biggest
Equipment.
claims against this being a natural sort of occurrence. The camera has something to do with the equipment, right? And
It's
that proves it's not
from
that,
the
yeah.
first capture, it was provably not equipment, though. For
No.
5 years, people who aren't so sharp wanted to argue that it was.
Yeah, did you do that intentionally, or did that?
No,
just happen to come up?
I never ever took my camera off the center of the moon, and at that moment, for whatever reason, I didn't see the wave start, panned back up. Then the wave caught my camera, and I saw it, and I immediately thought something was failing. I reached over to delete it. If I'd done that, we'd never had this, and for some reason, I didn't. And then I sat on it for a month or more. And then I finally deleted it off my computer. And that night I had the epiphany, oh my God, the camera pan. So I restored the clip. And
That
a
was
year
fortunate, huh?
a
The
year
pan is
after
actually
that, I
fortunate.
posted it to YouTube. I held on to it for a year before I posted it to YouTube.
Damn, that's so fascinating. Look at this.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, like let's just run it back just a little. Like, watch this. Okay, as the line rolls up,
It's
watch
so
like you said,
interesting.
watch it just displace everything. It's like you're looking at something and then pouring water over.
You know how when you're in a restaurant and your straw in your glass goes through water and it looks like it's broken because
Yep.
of the diffraction? It's that kind of thing going on, I think.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So what was the thruster that you saw?
You guys could put that one up if you can search it. It should be called Thruster CRROW777 Thruster Clip. That is certainly beyond, well, everything I shot is human tech in our atmosphere. That is some kind of a craft with 3 thrusters probably falling back down. I shot in the clip, it looks as if it's dark, but I had a city light filter on it. It was not dark yet when I shot that. And by the way, telescopes aren't made to track moving things, so I had to track a moving thing with a hand pad on a telescope, which I got decent at, but it's not easy to do.
What? I'm sorry, you said that everything you shot is human tech. No,
Yes.
are you including lunar waves in that?
Wow. I mean, objects.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that.
No,
too.
So
the moon is not human tech in my view.
Okay.
And if someone wants to make that claim, they got a lot of splaining to do.
Yeah, the people have though.
I know.
But yeah.
They got to
Okay.
They got to prove it. Saying it's one thing, showing a reason why is another.
Oh wow, I see what you're. Oh, holy shit.
See, there it is going across the center, and you'll see the thrusters light up. There's 3
Oh,
of them.
snaps.
Yeah. Like retro.
So I'm gonna
retro
try.
thrusters.
So I'm going to try to track this thing once it gets away with a hand control of a telescope. And by the way, it's not dark. It looks like it's dark in the footage because I got a city light filter, but the sky is blue
There
as
it
I'm
is.
filming this.
This would have to be incredible speed, right?
Yeah, it was moving right along. It always comes down to how far it is from you. But watch, when I zoom in, you can kind of see the thrusters.
Oh yeah.
And I do a still of it too. It's unfortunate. I shot this with the 8-inch and only 16 megapixels. My later system has 36 megapixels and 11 inches, and it would have been such a better shot. But you get what you get in this life.
And what explanations, conventional explanations, have you been given for this image? I'm curious to hear
I've been given everything from gray aliens are coming directly probe us to that's the Loch Ness monster's egg falling from space to something more reasonable, which is what I said. It's human technology with 3 thrusters in our atmosphere.
So hold on, but so is the moon in our atmosphere?
If you think about the idea of what I call the hard, fast barrier. So think about this. If you go on Google right now to look up where does space start, no one can tell you. Usually they'll say the Kármán line. The Kármán line's roughly 60 kilometers. But for some reason, no one can tell you where space starts. It's ironic. But that division that we can't get through, which people like to call the firmament in religion, which I like to call the hard, fast barrier, which flat earthers love to call the dome, we're all talking about the same thing or versions of the same thing. It is within that on the near side, on our side, is like embedded, like studded in. Go look at the old alchemical. Remember that old Flamel woodcut where the dude's poking his head out of the dome to see what's outside? Look up a Flamel woodcut and you'll see.
Okay.
And to me, the stars, the sun, the moon, all of it, it's for us. It's right here with us. It's not 100 gazillion million trillion light years. It's right here with us. This is our place here, built for us. We're the apex. We're the reason this exists.
We are like the human, like
There it
like
is.
you know, that's the whole theory that we're like very special, right?
The color one.
Oh, sorry.
Go back.
This guy?
3 down on the left. One more down.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Yeah.
That's the Flamel. See how he's poking his head through the firmament and all the
Yeah.
stars are embedded in it?
Yeah.
And the suns, that's an old alchemical communication about our world. And they were telling us a lot closer to the truth than NASA.
I mean, didn't NASA just come out and say, and that was something that Jason Tebow on my other podcast and I argued about, was that didn't NASA come out and say that the moon was in our orbit?
In our atmosphere, you mean?
Yeah. Excuse me, in our
Right.
atmosphere?
Yeah, they say all kinds of crap. You think someone might have figured that out the first time they went to the moon. And by the way, it's been over half a century since we went to the moon. We got all this technology. Why aren't we back right now? Why aren't we living in a condominium on the moon?
Wow, and
NASA.
the technology of the time was so primitive. I mean, relative to what you would think you would need to, if the moon
No, it was
where,
the best in the world. We still can't replicate what the master Werner von Braun did. We're just idiots compared to him.
I mean, that's
Go read his headstone. He told you the truth.
so bizarre.
Okay, so we have a couple more things that you saw that I'm excited to hear about. The exploding orb.
Now that was crazy because we were sitting there one day and my wife, all these times my wife has better far-sighted vision than I do without glasses. She goes, honey, there's an orb. We thought it was an orb. Turns out it was dropped by a chem plane, and turns out there was a tracking device in it. But the whole time we were watching it, and I ran in, I got my scope. Usually I just get a camera, but this time I said, I'm not missing this. I got an 8-inch scope on that thing and tracked it by hand, and then it blew up. And then we tracked the tracking device all the way back down to the ground. It blew up over houses, so all that crap that comes out of it went down over houses. It was dropped out of a chemtrail plane. The second one, we hadn't had chemtrails in almost a week. A plane went by, the second one went by, and we're pretty sure it was dropped out of that second plane.
Who's doing all this? And because I see there's an interesting point that I was told to ask you about is the double sun, which is a video I just saw on Instagram. Someone was talking about a second sun, and
There is
that
a
brought
second
up
sun.
some controversy. But you talk about these chemtrails and all this. Like, who do you think are the people behind all this?
The military industrial complex and corporations. We're about to lose our government. You notice all the governors are doing illegal things like giving dictates to the people. A governor can only legally dictate to his staff, but these governors are all out breaking every rule of the book, and they're going to be held accountable. And so what's going to happen probably is our government's going to go away, and we'll just report to Taco Bell because it'll be the last corporation standing.
So you see a dark future and not a bright enlightenment?
No, I see the future we deserve we're going to get. If we stand up and act like adults, this is a house of cards they're building. How many people buy the corona nonsense? How many people buy NASA landed on the moon, but we just can't seem to get back there after half a century? How many people buy that we're going to Mars? How many people buy anything that our government says?
Unfortunately, I think a lot. To be honest with you.
Yeah, the people who sit there drooling in front of Fox and CNN, but that generation's about to tee out.
I just think that there's so many of these idiots that are just into like, you tell, hey, the coronavirus isn't that bad. Even if you get it, you're going to live, all this stuff. And they're just like,
Go listen to Dr. Andy Kaufman, and he'll prove to you that viruses are misdescribed and don't exist as you've been told.
Yeah, I know
and then he got censored. He told us the scientific proofs, and this encompasses AIDS and a lot of things. And the moment I posted it, they censored it. So what does that tell you about what Mr. Kaufman just dropped?
Does he talk about the cytokine storm? Is that what you're looking for, sir?
The exomes, right? The
Exomes. That's part of it. Yep. But I'd already worked out that AIDS was poppycock. I grew up in that era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I never knew anyone with AIDS.
I know a lot of people have it, but they were told they have. I mean, I tell the story all the time. I went to get an AIDS test. The doctor was like, "Are you gay?" I go, "No." He goes, "Okay." And I came back negative. I was like, "What if I said I was gay?"
You've probably been HIV positive, like Mr. Wait for it, Magic Johnson.
Yep.
It's just interesting. Like, people just can't come to grips that like this is what is going on. And the people you're sending it to, like the doctors are doing it. This is what they've been trained to do. So they don't know it's that bad. And then they send the results somewhere else, and the results get sent back to them. And the people doing the results get paid a lot of money to do the testing. And then they find something to say you got it, a machine. It's kind of crazy. Okay,
Remember what we said about theories? So germ theory was one of the things Dr. Kaufman rightly knocked down after I'd pointed out that a germ theory has been a theory for so damn long, it's not even a good idea. When does gravity become a law? Has anyone got an idea of when gravity might become a law and something we can hang our hat on? And yet everything we do acts as if it is a law. That should tell everyone something. Gravity is a theory based on a theory. Two theories, that's a double theory. Germ theory is the same thing. People right now, I have zero concern. I would kiss a person with the flu with zero concern of contracting it, because I understand now that it's electromagnetic. It's like when I filmed The Second Son. When I first did it, I was afraid to post the footage because I wasn't sure. And I thought, I'm doing something wrong, something I don't know about here. I held on to it from 2016 to like a year and a half ago. Well, one of the doctors that we have on, who rightly went with the Germans, who tried to publish the fact that a flu is actually electromagnetic in nature, but they were never allowed to publish that. I showed him the footage and I said, I'm publishing that. I think there's a second son. And he said, you're right, there is. When I was trained in Ayurvedic medicine and other methods. They told me the source sun, the sun you don't see. So I went to Falconelli. And as I read all the encoded Falconelli stuff, I began to realize. So I got a friend of mine who speaks Italian to put the Falconelli into English. And that's when we realized. And so then we went to the Masonic woodcuts. How many Masonic woodcuts have you seen where there's a sun and all these lenses getting the light down to Earth? But
I've
then
seen
there's
zero Masonic wood cuts.
You've seen those black and white pictures with the checkerboard floor. You had to the line drawings.
Oh yeah. I've seen those.
So there's a hole in the clouds, and almost every one of them with light coming through, powering our sun.
Right. Oh yeah.
So I ended up filming either a reflection or the source of what we call the second sun, the one you can't see with your eyes, in hydrogen alpha with a solar telescope. And that footage is in Shoot the Moon as well at the very end.
Oh my God, I can't wait to watch this film.
Is the second sun where the moon gets its light source?
The sun is electric. The moon is electromagnetic. There's only one force in our world. It's electricity. People like Tesla knew this. And so the daughter of electricity is electromagnetism. That's what's driving everything. So the moon, we suspect, can't prove it yet, is generating its own light. And it has to do with electricity because the sun is electric. But what I was going to tell you, Sam, when we get done here, kick me an email and I'll send you a free key so you can just get free access to Shoot the Moon.
It's crazy, dude. This is like, when I tell people like, they're like, is everything conspiracy? I go, it really is. Everything is a conspiracy because these people have been pulling this stuff for centuries.
War for the mind.
Thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
They've been flipping this stuff to not let us know how important we are. And like more and more of my friends
there it is.
are coming to grips, and especially in the conspiracy community. I think you're starting to see like Jimmy Dore go to that way where he's just like, he's talking about spirituality and stuff. And I think he's just realized that like everything is fucking theater.
Yep.
And it's like the real thing is to find like the only person gonna save you is yourself, and you got to find it within yourself.
There it is, man. Where do you search for the kingdom of God? All you Bible readers, you search within. You are the creator. This whole game is about the battle for the human mind. What nonsense can we get human beings to believe in? Because when you get 100 million minds to believe that fake shooting was real, then to some degree it exists. Yes. And then we start working from there. And that's the game we've been playing. And not only that, how many people understand that your birth certificate is being traded on a stock market? Nobody knows that. Everyone should know that.
What does that mean? What does that even mean?
It means that you're not a entitled person. It means that at some level we're all slaves. It means that the Matrix was a perfect allegory. You're basically a battery. Your energy's been siphoned off since you were born. You don't, like when you register a car, you don't own that car. What you own is the certificate. When you register a thing, you get a certificate. That's yours. Yeah, I can use this thing. Or how about your kids? How is it that the state can come yank kids anytime? You know why? Because you don't even own your own children. You know why? Because you got a birth certificate. It's all a shell game. And now it's falling apart.
Can you get out of that? Can I buy my kids back?
Well, I'm not the expert, so I'm not going to answer that like I know, but I've talked to enough people recently on our legal episodes that yes, you can become a whole human being and you can walk into a court of law, you can maintain your position, you can defend your rights, and you can put everyone in that court in the liability that they should be in, scared to death about what you will do next because they know you're in charge, like a real court should be. Not where you're being treated like, see, when you walk into a court as an average person, it's a public realm. We can only exist in a public or a private realm. If you exist in the private realm, you're viewed as lost at sea. You're not alive. You're lost at sea. And when you go in there, you're treated in this way. Now, when people who know what's up walk in, they walk in as a private citizen, a living man or woman, and they hold their position and they let the court know, I've held on to all my rights, bucko, and by the way, you're liable for everything that happens here. And that's a whole other world that most of us are unaware of. And this is this is part of why we rushed into 2020. 3/11 is when all this nonsense started for us. You know why? Because this fake system was getting challenged 6 ways to Sunday. So they rushed this.
Oh, you mean the COVID?
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I think they pushed it too quickly and it crashed
did.
and burned. And, you know, it's just like I'm debating whether I should go get tested for COVID or not right now.
Don't do it. Databases never get
no.
cleaned. Once you're in a database, you're there forever. That's a place you don't want to exist.
For what? For them to tell you to stay home? That's all they're going to do.
In case people are wondering what's king in the era we're alive, it is not cash. It hasn't been cash for a long time. What's king now is data. Data has been king at least since 1999, when the CEO of Sun Microsystems stood up and told us all truly, even though we didn't believe him, that there was no more privacy anymore, but you get all these free tools like email and this, that, and the other thing. He told us the truth. We didn't believe him. And now we're living with the data collection that's gone on. What most people don't realize about data collection is it gives more power to whoever controls the data than has ever been known in the world, because they can predict what will happen to anyone or anything a year, 3 years from now, to a 98% certainty, because the infinite data set at which they are data mining allows them to do this. And anyone who doesn't believe it, go look up Wisdom of the Crowd and the law of large numbers, which is how Vegas was founded. The wisdom of the crowd says, oh, I'm at the county fair. There's a mason jar full of thousands of gumballs. Everyone's going to guess how many gumballs in the gumball thing. And by the time 100 people have guessed, if you average every guess, you're usually within 100 or 200 of the actual number. If 1,000 people guess, you're starting to get within 1% of the actual number of gumballs.
Cool.
And if more than that guess, you're right on the damn money of how many thousands of gumballs are in that mace. That's called wisdom of the crowd. And what's going on with data collection and computers makes that look like preschool at best.
Fuck, man. So, yeah, it's fucking nuts, dude. It's fucking nuts.
I see you film eclipses a lot. What do you think you're seeing there during eclipses?
The solar eclipse is being caused by what's called nodes, and I won't really
What
get
is
into
a
that.
nodes?
It's basically we're two paths, like, you know what the ecliptic and the equator, the idea of an ecliptic or equator, it's like an imaginary line in space. Well, when the so-called orbit of one thing crosses a line like that, that's a node. But you got to look it up to know better. The old words for them are Ketu and Rahu, the head and the tail of the dragon. How many times have you seen a movie where the older cultures are saying, oh, the dragon's eating the sun? Well, they were telling you the truth, basically. It's not the moon doing it. It is the nodes doing it. And by the way, the Tibetans rightly told us the closer the moon gets to the sun, the darker it gets. Provably true. Oh, that looks like my old solar footage.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's a solar eclipse happening, and that is not the moon. That is a node getting ready to black it out. And by the way, I can blow your mind a little further with eclipses if you're into it. So the sun is an infinite light source. I was a roadie for years, so I know about stage lighting. If you grab a spotlight, which is not an infinite light source, and you put a person in between it and a wall, it'll make a shadow. But if you move the spotlight, the shadow size will change. Now, if you use an infinite light source like the sun is, doesn't matter where the person or the source is, it will always, the shadow will remain the size of the object casting it. So when they told us the shadow of the last full eclipse was 70 miles across, that's how big the object that eclipsed the sun was.
These things you're showing right here are what?
Those are sunspots on the face of the sun.
Damn.
By the way, there's almost no activity and no sunspots on the sun now. Used to be so much more to see on the sun than
What do
there
you
is now.
think is going on?
We're changing ages. We're changing. The era we were in 10 months ago is not the era we're about to be in, and it's all going to change on December 21 this year, the low point of the sun, the solstice.
Hold on. So what is happening then?
We're finishing a cycle of time that all the people in charge know about, that all us have been lied to about. Astrology made to look silly, so we don't understand how important the sky clock is.
So this is what everyone's been talking about. Now, my question to you is, do you see this as a good thing? I think I've asked this before, but I feel like asking it again. do you see this upcoming new era time as good as a ending of the old guard and bringing in a new age of enlightenment?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. We're coming through a time where there's a lot of things about the way we live people don't like. That's coming to an end, which means a new beginning is starting, which means there's all this possibility. If we all grow up and do adult things, we could get a bunch of things better. If we don't, we could get worse than we are now. As an example, if we go to the digital dollar on the day that happens, we will have lost more freedom than any time in the history of human beings that I'm aware of, and they're already trying to do it. The Fed has already said to the banks, you can turn down any transaction, you can turn down any wire, all these things, giving all this control of how we will buy. It's almost like the book of Revelation, get this marker, you can't buy or sell. It's a bit like that. But we have a new beginning. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know if people will stand up and be adults, or whether they'll be the same chicken livers that are afraid of a virus that doesn't exist.
Do your concerns about the digital dollar extend to other forms of digital currency, like cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin and
I'll have nothing to do with any of it, and anyone who wants to argue it, go ahead, argue all you want. Nobody knows who invented it, nobody knows who controlled it, and you've been told this lie that it's untraceable and all. And let me tell you something. The first moment cryptocurrency existed, you don't think the central banks understood what was coming? Well, now the central banks are going for the digital dollar, and it still doesn't matter because they control the internet. Corporations control the internet. In other words, for you to get money, you have to use their highway to do it. In other words, what are you going to do when you're sitting in your bedroom and you need $30 and a little thing comes up, says, sorry, you didn't renew your driver's license, you can't have money today. What are you going to do about it? Not a damn thing. And that's where this goes. Not only that, it also ensures that every single transaction will be captured, data mined, and processed in real time. Go ahead and try to buy a 8-ball of Coke if that's still a thing. If you do, they'll know where it went.
So you look at the sun a lot, the atmosphere.
Coke is going out.
I know, I'm sad. So you look at the sun a lot, the atmosphere, the planes, all that. What's up with global warming? That's just more bullshit? Is that?
Yes. Remember a thing called the Ice Age? Remember, we have cycles here, high and low, high and low. And by the way, if global warming was true, where I'm living now, the first time I saw the beach that's at the bottom of my street was when I was 5 years old. There's a chain link fence above the mean high water mark. And whenever the water hits that fence, all the seaweed gets caught and it gets all leathery and it stays there for years. It's been over 20 years since water hit that chain link fence. So how can global warming be real? That's attached to the ocean, right?
Do you believe in alien technology?
No.
Not at all.
Just us. It's just us.
You don't think there's in many dimensions?
I do accept that there are dimensions.
Do you think that those things could be used in the future or will be used in the future to deceive the world, possibly like sort of false alien attacks?
Yeah, they're queuing it up now. We've been seeing all kinds of, like there was stupid blimp footage the other day that got people in it up where it was clearly a blimp. They're gonna use their, aliens are real and rectal probing is real and Loch Ness monster is real and everything they can do to get you to not have common sense, to believe in these nonsensical things. Look at me. When I started filming these things, at first I was all about, are these aliens? What the hell am I filming here? But as I zeroed in with an adult mind and common sense, I started challenging it. And then when I got the optics expert, I could prove there's no way this thing's even hundreds of miles away from me. If it was, it would be enormous. It's ridiculous. And
how far away do you think the sun is from the planet?
I'm not 100% sure. It's in our environment. Let me put it that way.
Do you think the moon and the sun are at different distances?
No, they're about the same size. They're about the same distance.
If you had to give a guesstimation of how far away do you think the sun is?
Less than 1,000 miles.
Less than 1,000 miles?
Probably a lot less than 1,000
So that would mean... I guess reformat this question. Do you think that the energy we get from the sun is actually sourced from the sun? like radiation. And
Yes,
those-
but
yeah.
the sun is not hot and it's not nuclear. All the old alchemists had already worked out that the closer to the sun you get, the colder it is. And so science tried to fool you into thinking, well, there's no atmosphere to heat up. What actually goes on is, for one thing, the tallest mountains in the world have sun. They're way closer to the sun. They have snow on them all year round, right? There's your first logical, no nonsense, alchemist told you the truth proof. But there's an old saying that I hope I live long enough to test. In about 5 different alchemical texts from natural scientists, I read this. If you go to the bottom of a well at midday, in other words, noon, and you look up, you will see the nighttime sky, which is another proof that the sun is radiating energy that interacts with matter, and without the matter, there is no sense of warmth. I
So
want to know
high
if that's
ti-
true.
my mind's blown today. It's just kind of fucking nuts, right? Johnny, what are your resident critic? What are you, a cynic? What do you think?
I don't know what that means. I don't consider myself a cynic at all.
I think you're kind of the guy who you're our new version
The
of
Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah, but
Aaron.
I'm way
He's
less
way more open.
skeptical
Yeah.
than him. Aaron didn't believe anything.
I'm good with you, Johnny.
No,
These guys are
I'm
picking
honestly
on you.
fascinated by all this. Yeah, he loves it.
I get shit by everybody. He made a shirt of me of some dumb quote I made, and he's selling it on the internet. Please, Johnny is a silent.
All right, I gotta ask, what's the quote? Come on,
What's
kick
the
out.
quote, Johnny? What was it?
I don't. It was something about. Well, it wasn't necessarily the quote that was interesting. It was his. He said it with such profundity. You know, like what he was saying was a revelation. Here it is. I'll share the screen so we can all.
It's just
enjoy
rude.
this.
Then he used like my magician from the fucking dude. They're plants. Without them, we have no oxygen.
No, and the way you said it though, you go, dude, they're plants. Without them, we have no oxygen.
What am I, Jerry Seinfeld?
You know,
Me and my
that's
boy
all well and
magician
good
look.
until
Look at
100
those-
years from now. That's the only thing they find related to Sam Tripoli.
That is so funny, dude. That is so, man. That is so. So you dropped a lot of knowledge on us today, and it's I just find it so amazing. I mean,
I loved it.
I love it, dude.
I have one quick question. So you live by
let's
the
hear
ocean,
this.
right? You live by the ocean, right?
Yes.
So they say that the moon and the tide have to do with gravitational pull. You said gravity's bullshit and the moon. What is that? How do they?
Nice,
How do they put
nice.
those
Actually,
together?
Perfect,
good
man.
question.
I like this dude. He's always thinking about the no nonsense things to ask.
Dude, if you and Greg Carlwood ever been in the same room because you guys have the exact same voice? Has anyone ever told you that?
No one
Oh.
has to. We both lived in San Diego. We never met, but I think I was the most interviewed guest on his show before I left. I'd been on 5 or 6 times.
Dude, it is amazing how similar you guys' voices
I
are.
don't know how that dude, like, he'll do his soliloquies stoned out of his mind. He never drops a syllable.
Dude,
And I always
he's
say, dude, if you just did bongs and pulled that off, I'm freaking impressed.
Yeah,
Because I couldn't do it. But
He's
to
the-
get back
he's
to
the
the
best.
point, the moon plays no role in tides. And there's a quote that I'm sure everyone here will remember when I say it, but they don't know that it was tied to a man trying to prove that the moon caused the tides. And the quote is, "It's where reason goes to die." Remember that old quote?
Yes.
So that comes from a guy trying to prove that the moon is causing the tides. The best description that I've ever heard comes from a book called Zetetic Astronomy by a man called Parallax, who's actually Samuel Robotham, by the way. The flat earthers will love that. And what's going on there is pressures. Where there's a high pressure, there's a low tide. Where there's a low pressure, there's a high tide. And he further points out in that book, in some places, the tides are double the number of times a day. So how can that be? And in some places they're not equal. Like one tide will be more significant than another. So I like the idea. I can't prove it, but I like the idea. The most logical thing I've heard is it has to do with the air pressure pushing down on the bodies of water. And by the way, if the moon causes tides, then how come Great Lakes don't have tides? There's another problem, right? Great Lakes are huge. There's no tide there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just blow some common sense holes in their nonsense and then tell them to go smoke their
It's so
textbooks.
crazy, right? It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Crow, you killed it, dude. You were great. Thank you so much. The only reason I got to jump early is because I just have family members coming over, and it's gonna be chaos in here, dude. It took us a little while to set this up because everybody's schedule was crazy. But man, you came, you crushed. You did a great job. It was an honor to talk to you. And if you could tell real quick, tell our listeners where they could find you. They probably all know about you anyways. You're one of our most requested guests, so it's been an honor to have you on. And I appreciate everything you've said and the way you've delivered your data. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing your movie, man. I really am.
Okay, so here's
I
the
lean
deal.
very more along the lines of what you're talking about, that I believe we live in a very special place. I believe we're one of many dimensions, and this dimension's very special. And I'm dying to see your movie. So if you could tell them where they can find you, that'd be awesome, my friend.
Okay, I think you're on the money. I think you're on the path that pays. So on YouTube, which I don't really tout because you don't know if it'll be there tomorrow, it's just CRROW777, CRR2R, CRROW777. The main game in town is my private website, CRROW777radio.com, CRROW777radio.com. I post the first free hour of everything I do. The members support free speech for the second hour, which is right now, I'll tell you something. We're pulling 8 shows a month for the price of a cup of coffee. Most people are only doing 4, but that's what we're, but I'll make all you guys a deal. When we get off, all you guys send an email to Rose for a free key to see Shoot the Moon. You guys check it out, and maybe you could do a short review of it next time you're all sitting out there together.
Done, dude. That should be something we do anyways. We should do reviews of docs out there. I think that's a great idea. Boom.
Do it for Patreon, maybe.
Good Patreon idea. Bam.
There it is. We'll make sure you got keys. Did Rose email with all you guys or just with
she
Sam?
just emailed with me, but I could do
I've emailed her too.
Let's do a group. Don't leave Xavier out. Don't pick on Johnny. Let's get everyone's emails
dude,
in.
I'm the asshole here. I'm just, dude. It's just like the guy asked
There's
if he
a difference
put
between
a fucking space in jars. I mean,
come
like,
on,
what,
man.
am I an asshole?
But that's the thing. As he said it, I was thinking I'd like some space in a jar.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, can we sell that shit? No, I love everybody on the show, and I hope they love me too. I got a jam. Thank you so much, Crow. You're the best, and I will talk to you soon, brother.
Cheers.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.